Asus is at it again with another iteration of their venerated 14-inch gaming laptop, the Zephyrus G14. I took a look at the G14 exactly 2 years ago, and given some of the new features, I think it's worth the effort to do a little check-in.
Slap Tech.
This then is the Asus Zephyrus G14. I got this on sale from Best Buy recently for $1,200, and it comes with last year's AMD Ryzen 9, still an incredibly potent CPU that will match wits with anything you compare it to, and is mated to the AMD RX 6700S GPU with 8 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM, also a formidable GPU that beats out NVIDIA's RTX 3060 mobile graphics unit. If that's not enough, more expensive versions are available with an RX 6800S GPU. These bits sit underneath a 14-inch high-res, high-refresh rate display that shows you 1600p's in 120Hz's and a 16:10 aspect ratio. It's all powered by a decently sized 76 watt-hour battery and weighs in around 3.5 pounds, a far cry from its heavier 15.6-inch competitors. The AC adapter channels 240 watts, which is probably a little overkill, and is the same unit as higher-end models. It would be nice to have something a little more compact, but it's still manageable, especially with 10 feet of separation from an outlet. That's with a 6-foot from the wall cord and a 4-foot umbilical cord that features a right-angle plug. Very nice. And unfortunately for me, the glossy surface on the ROG logo came pre-scuffed, even underneath the protective plastic wrapping. Poo beans. The battery life from this laptop is great if you know how to get it. Armory Crate, the program that controls everything, sucks at managing battery life. You would think Silent would be good for battery life, but Silent really means to shed quiet tears while the battery drains in only 4.5 hours. However, if optimally configured, that is, in Windows mode, then turn Battery Saver on in Windows itself, and the GPU to Eco mode, you'll get 8.5 hours of internet work use and 5.5 hours of streaming video. Getting good battery life while gaming is pretty tricky. The laptop refuses to shut off the dedicated GPU in games, so no matter what mode you're in, you'll get 75 minutes of PC gaming and 2 hours of Dolphin. So it lasts quite a while doing Windows things, but doing any kind of gaming, even with emulators, will be a short-lived experience unless you really know how to tweak it, which I don't yet. And before you say anything about shutting off the GPU and device manager, that didn't help at all while using Mupen64. Not a bit. The APU still sucked all the battery juice out in 2 hours. If you want even less battery life, or if this machine will sit on your desk plugged in all the time, you can limit a full charge to 60 or 80% to preserve the lifespan of the battery. The build quality of the Asus G14 is plasticky. The palm rest, keyboard, and back of the screen are made of the cheap stuff, but thankfully it doesn't feel all that cheap. It's very well put together and is sturdy enough to invoke confidence in its rigidity. It's not impressive, but it doesn't disappoint. The screen repeats this pattern. It's not terribly flimsy, but it won't win any awards for firmness. And yes, there's a metal bottom plate, and it gets hot. It would scald your legs if given the chance, but thankfully, the monitor rotates under the body, pushing it up to allow for airflow and a better... Nah, it still burns. Let's see what all those holes in the side do. On the right is a mini card reader, USB-C/mini display port, 2 USB 3.2As, and a vent. On the left is another vent, the power hole HDMI 2.0B, another USB-C display port that can quick charge your device, and a headset in. 2 USB Type-A's is great, especially when right next to each other. However, it would be better if they were on the left side of the laptop in case a wired mouse is employed. People complain about this all the time, so I'm sure there's a good logistical reason why these are on the right. And of course, no Thunderbolt because AMD, but whatever. What are you going to do with Thunderbolt anyway? Let everyone know in the comments below why they should miss Thunderbolt in their all-AMD laptop. Underneath the bottom cover, we can see that a whole bunch of it is covered up by a vapor chamber. Ooh. There's only one RAM slot, so you can upgrade it to 40 gigs of memory. Sure, Asus' website says 24, but Best Buy's website says 40. And they're the utmost authority on these things, you know. Just kidding, but there are other reports of owners upgrading to 40 recognized gigs. The NVMe SSD is full-sized and upgradable, and the Wi-Fi card sits underneath of it. Only one heat pipe going to these fans is rather anemic, but it's only a 14-inch laptop and space looks pretty tight for all these capacitors. So yeah, wrestling with physics is fun, kids! Typing on the keyboard is a pleasant trip. The keys are firm, don't melt under your fingers, and have a very good response rate. Pressing a key on the extreme edge will cause it to actuate and not register, which means there will be missed strokes, but for the most part there's not much to worry about. Typing up this script didn't give me a world of annoying trouble, and it performed very well. One big improvement from the last model I reviewed is that there are home, end, and page scrolling keys now. They're built into the arrow keys, which I'm not a big fan of, but just to have them is a big step up. One of the first things I did with this laptop is map home and end to the third and fourth macro keys respectively, and that works great. Still missing is a function key toggle. WTF, Asus. Escape does nothing. Map it to escape. It also has a single zone backlight that you can change to any color you want and 3 different levels of brightness. Go ham. And I don't know why, but the right Alt key is more transparent than any other key on the keyboard. What? Why? And if you think the white color is cool now, just wait until it's dirty, and your finger oil makes it look like your girlfriend's anemic chihuahua took a whiz on it and gestured to have you thank it for the effort. The touchpad is large, in charge, and glass. It feels good to use, doesn't have physical keys, but right-click isn't hard to find and it gets in the way while typing sometimes, but not all the time. Rest assured that it won't drive you nuts. Staring at this display's pixels is great. It's matte, super sharp at 1600p, gets very bright, and still dim enough for a pitch-black room. Outdoor use isn't out of the question here. It's also color accurate, colors pop, and gradients are very smooth. This G14 sports a 120Hz refresh rate, and it definitely soars above all budget 120Hz gaming laptops, like the Dell G15 that I previously reviewed. Latency is also very good and won't disappoint. While I've experienced better latency from the Asus G15 Strix, this is more than adequate and perhaps just a little bit better than that. Being a high refresh rate panel, ghosting is also very competitive, though it won't break any barriers past its 120Hz limitations. Colors might not fade at an angle, but the brightness does shift at a close angle, something that shouldn't be too much of a bother since it tilts back 180 degrees, making the search for a comfortable viewing angle super easy and barely an inconvenience. And no, this model doesn't have the animatrix feature on the rear end of the display. Oh well. Listening to things through the Asus G14 speakers is an incredibly pleasant experience. The speakers get loud, don't hiss, and have excellent balance. In the grand scheme of things, I suppose the mids are a bit too bold, but there's plenty of bass and treble to help even things out. The EQ is also perfectly flat, and there's no software trickery to pull bass tones into the treble range. The bass from Calm Like a Bomb by Rage Against the Machine comes through cleanly in its native EQ range, and the deep bass from A Package by The Perfect Circle might be a little weak, but its subtle twang is easily comprehended. Headphones are absolutely not a necessity.
Here's a test of the webcam. 720p picture is especially grainy. Colors are very washed out. Works just fine though, and I do have my super loud AC unit on, so even though I'm going to talk in a very low tone of voice, you can still understand what I'm saying. Perfectly fine. Sure, the quality isn't that great, but if you're in an online gaming situation, you've got one of these running in the background, people will still be able to easily understand what you're saying, and at the end of the day, that's what's most important.
System performance of the Zephyrus G14 is just about as good as you can get. The Ryzen 9 in here is a 45-watt processor and it gets fed exactly 45 watts, not a penny more. Since a faster laptop can't really be found these days, the only thing left to discuss is the heat. Oh boy, does this thing get hot. When plugged in, just doing Windows things gets the temperature to rise, and this can be felt through the palm rest and keyboard keys. When untethered from the wall, things can get significantly cooler, and performance is not sacrificed. A small pet peeve I have is that when the power profile automatically switches when going on or coming off the plug, the screen flickers because the monitor's refresh rate is changing. And for current and future owners of the Zephyrus G14, try not to touch anything, especially in the AMD software. I edited something in there and forgot what it was, and my frame rates tanked. After pulling a factory reset of the AMD software, not all of Windows mind you, the gaming performance was restored to its former glory. So just fiddle around with Armory Crate if you want to try to get better battery life. And if you figure out how to get it to last 4 hours while using Melon DS, put the secret combination in the comments below. On to gaming. This is what this laptop was built for. It has a great GPU in it with all the teraflops you need and even teraflops you don't need and didn't ask for. Because the screen does 1600p, which is significantly higher than 1080p, the smoothness hits a brick wall somewhere between medium and high details at native res in the latest games. While it's pretty damn fantastic for playing older titles at 1600p like Witcher 3 or Forza Motorsport 7, newer games like Forza Horizon 5 or Valheim are going to have problems at native res. As far as ray tracing is concerned, you'd best forget it's a thing. Enabling it is a bad idea. Nuff said. In other news, if by some magical coincidence the fans aren't spinning when you're playing a game, the coil whine is most certainly going to be audible. Naturally, both the whine and the fan noise are easily drowned out by the great speakers regardless. Gaming performance on battery power is actually not half bad either if you can somehow get it to use just the Ryzen 9 APU. Integrated graphics aren't terrible and handily defeat anything that's Iris Xe. Battery life still suffers though, and the longest it will be away from an outlet is 2 hours. That is, if you can even limit it to just the APU at all, since Armory Crate always likes to claim that something is using the GPU, and thus eco mode is untoggleable. To wrap up gaming, there's always going to be a way that you can enjoy high details when attached to power, and don't put it on your lap because ouch. For the bottom line, why did I review the Asus Zephyrus G14 again? It doesn't fit the motif of this channel since I normally review affordable laptops that anyone can buy. I reviewed it because I want to go back to using my desktop and replace both my MSI GE66 and Dell Latitude 7420 with one device. Can the G14 fill both roles as a capable and portable office laptop and mobile gaming PC? You bet your ass it can! Sure, it gets hot and coils whine in some instances, but overall it's friggin' amazeballs at everything, and it's not going to let you down no matter what you do or where you go. So you guys are going to start seeing this laptop in no future videos. Sorry, the Latitude 7420 does Citra for 6 hours. Like, WTF mate, that's supernatural. I'm sticking with Iris Xe for the mobile emulation win, and the Latitude is just plain more comfortable, more classy, and even more portable than the Zephyrus G14. Keep in mind it's also noticeably slower, but I'm a pretty patient dude. In conclusion, students get a thumbs up, not 2, but only because it's pricey. As long as it's charged, it'll last you through a full day of classes and then some, and has a very good keyboard and versatile screen. At this price point, it's butting up against the MacBook Air, so if you game, get the G14. If you don't game, get the Dell Latitude 7420 because Apple is dumb. Rawr. Casual and competitive gamers get 2 thumbs up. Even this lower spec model with the RX 6700S can power any game at least 1200p, and you will be able to find a detail level that allows for over 60 FPS in any game. As far as being a desktop replacement is concerned, I don't see anything wrong with that. It comes with a 1TB SSD out of the box and is upgradable to 40 gigs of RAM. It also has 3 potential display outputs, although 2 are USB-C derived, which can be a pain. But hey, it has a Ryzen 9, and it's fast. Home users can go for this? It's pretty, especially this all-white version. None of the peripherals are frustrating to use or disappointing, and of course, Minecraft, Roblox, and Valorant will work just fine for the kids, as well as any other online esports titles you recklessly and carelessly let your kids play. I dare you to actually sit down with your son and watch him play an online game for 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, and listen to what the other kids are saying and what they're typing in chat. You will be shocked. Shocked, I say. Shocked. This has been a review of the goddamn soapbox. Get out of here. This has been a review of the Asus Zephyrus G14 here on Slap Tech. If you learned something, give it a thumbs up. If what you learned is that you hate yourself and hate whatever PC you currently use, give it a thumbs up anyway. Because reasons. Next up is a Lenovo 11-inch laptop for students, so this channel will be returning to form very soon. Stay tuned and subscribe so you don't miss it. As always, thanks for watching, and you guys, have a good night.